Okay, hey, welcome everybody. It is 7 o'clock. Time for Sci-Fi Distill. Welcome Mary Beth and welcome back, Kent. And we are going to wrap up our Tom Cruise month. Even
Where
though
are we? I'm looking for
only
us
three
on Facebook.
movies with Top Gun Maverick because we kind of felt that was the best thing he's put out in a while.
Yeah, that's true. Where
It
are
isn't
okay?
really
We are on.
sci-fi, but if you've seen the movie, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief. So
Oh yeah, the opening scene. We are on YouTube right now, but we're not yet on the Book of Faces, so I am
well, it
still.
shows that it's. I have a check mark for that, so it should
All
be
right.
coming through.
I believe you, but I don't see it.
Well, that doesn't mean it's not there.
Where
Plans to
is
go
it?
live.
Anyway, so anyway, now that we've derailed our conversation, do
don't
you
believe
have
in
any
Mach 10?
news for us?
I do. I do have news. I have a little bit of news because I'm excited to talk about Top Gun Maverick. Avatar: The Way of Water. I have not seen this yet. If you have seen it, don't spoil it for me. But the Avatar: Way of Water, it has a $460 million price tag. Only 2 scenes, and I think they mean 2 shots. I don't think they mean 2 scenes. I think they mean 2 shots. In its 192-minute runtime, does not have any VFX or touch-ups whatsoever. If you've already seen the movie, you can go ahead and guess which ones, and I'll reveal them at the end of the news. Moving on. That's the answer. Go past the answer. Moving on. Bad news, sad news. Star Trek composer Gerald Fried has passed at age 95. Whenever you see the Star Trek, the original series, when you hear that Amok Time music that the fight music that Jim Carrey so famously used in Cable Guy. And also, that's him. And then Gilligan's Island, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible, and tons of others of favorites from the 60s and 70s. That's all his work. Yeah. And also famed Japanese manga and anime creator Leiji Matsumoto, whose real name was Akira Matsumoto, has died at age 85. Akira Matsumoto is best known for Galaxy Express 999, Captain Harlock, and Space Battleship Yamato, which we reviewed on this show. And Starblade.
I did get a notification that there is a problem with Facebook.
I knew it. Do we need to pause?
Let me put a note up that we are live on YouTube.
Didn't go to Facebook. I
don't know what the problem is.
Facebook does say live now, but it's not.
Yeah, it's according to StreamYard, it's Facebook is having an issue on Facebook's end or something.
Yeah, well, you know what? When I'm done with the news, I will also put up a message too. Moving on. This time next week, we'll have a new Mandalorian. Yay! We know artificial intelligence is getting a little weird lately with people reporting disturbing exchanges with AI, but apparently all AI really wants to do is write. The award-winning Clarkesworld magazine accepts story pitches from wannabe writers and has helped launch the careers of science fiction writers for almost 20 years, regularly featuring work from Hugo Award nominees and winners. Unfortunately, in January, they found and banned 100 writers because they realized it was all AI-generated stories. And in February, they have found and banned 500 so far, and the month's not over. So all submissions are closed for now. No word if they're going to be reopening. This is getting to be kind of a thing. This was the top story on every sci-fi news outlet. They all ran with this story because it's kind of becoming a thing. If anyone's watching Facebook, no one's watching Facebook. If anybody's watching on YouTube, did you take a guess at which 2 scenes are the ones from Avatar? I'll tell them to you right now. The one of spiders, which is Jack Champion, his eyeball. That's real, no VFX in there. And one shot of the bottom of the ocean, which just ripples in the bottom of the water. Those are the only 2 shots in the entire movie without VFX. Rizzo. Everyone tell us your call sign while Rizzo tells us what we're drinking for Top Gun.
Yeah, I'm trying to help fix our problem.
Oh, he's working on the problem. I'm also going to put up on my Facebook page that we distilled this live over on. I'll just share it.
Okay, sorry about that. We'll see if that was. I'm trying to. So there's our drink. It's called the Afterburner. How apropos. So look, we must be on because there's Bill. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on tonight, guys. We kind of been on, but apparently Facebook was having some issues. So anyway, this one's real easy. Vodka, triple sec, and grapefruit juice. You swap that out to lime juice. What do you got? Kamikaze.
Ooh, nice.
So
that works. Afterburner, kamikaze, kind of the
anyway,
same.
so that one might not be bad. I'm not big on grapefruit, but I don't know. Might be worth a try.
Supposedly it helps you lose
Hi,
weight.
Bill. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Sue.
Although I doubt it if it's in an alcoholic drink.
Probably not. Although I don't think vodka or any of the clear liquors are very fattening.
That's true. Well, your body converts them to sugar, though.
So yeah. So I don't know if you mentioned it because I was messing around with the computers here, but as we know, Picard season 3 dropped last Thursday, and I'm sure there's a lot of buzz. But we're gonna actually cover all 3 seasons after this season has completed.
That makes sense.
Do a show on the whole thing, the good, the bad, and the ugly of Picard. Hopefully, there is a lot of good in this season.
Yeah, I hope we're mostly just.
I'm reserving judgment. I know a lot of people are really excited about the first episode.
It's early. Give it a few.
But we got to step back. I know there's a lot of positives, especially from Mike Okuda and.
Yeah, Bill actually went to the premiere at Thai.
Yeah.
Bill, I hope it was fun. James gives a really good tour, doesn't he?
James does give a good tour. You got to give the guy that. So. Anyway, getting into Top Gun Maverick. Of course, this is the sequel from the 1985? No, 86.
86.
Somewhere in the mid to late 80s. Top Gun, which was a huge blockbuster success, especially for the Navy. I think they got a lot of recruits.
500%. 500% up.
I don't know. Let's talk about the original Top Gun for a minute before we get into Maverick, because what was it about that film that people like so much? Is it the nationalism that it provokes?
America, fuck yeah.
Yeah, is it
gloriously shot
and just is it just what about that film?
It was
that would people were just jazzed about it, and it was good.
It was a lot of people's first real glimpse, although it isn't real, into what carrier operations are like or how the Navy is. I know that's not what the Navy is like, but that was what a lot of people thought that the Navy was like.
A lot of people wanted to become aviators thanks to this movie.
Well, that's true, and of course, it's a very, 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 very small percentage of pilots that even get to the aviation program that actually get to fly fighter jets. So,
yeah, everybody else.
I have a brother-in-law who was in the Air Force, and he went. It's very similar in the Air Force as far as you get the flight school, and then it's only the top 1% ever get to go to the fighter school, and he didn't even want to. Incidentally, he's like, because there's no civilian equivalent to fighter pilot. He said, "I'll fly the big cargo jets, and then I'll have all that heavy aircraft experience when I get out, and I can fly civilian," which he's still doing. So anyway,
that's where the money is.
Yep. Anyway, so there was really big. So of course, it took 30 years or more to finally come out with this. Actually, more than 30 years, right? It was. You said it was 86?
40
years.
40 years.
Damn near 40.
Yeah, so crazy. And I got to give Tom Cruise credit. He still looks pretty darn good because he probably would have been retired by now as a Navy pilot. Of course, that's kind of
he would have been like he would have gone on to other
a captain? No, he's a commander, right?
He's a captain, which is 06.
Captain. Okay,
yeah.
so which is equivalent of a colonel.
Well,
so that's still fairly high.
But it's up or out. If he turned down that many promotions, they would just
generally used to be when I was in, you had for officers, it was if you got passed over twice, you were out.
Yeah.
So anyway, but again, that's the least of the suspension of disbelief. The thing is what they do kind of explain it very well is they realize that they want him gone because he is a maverick. Apparently, he didn't do well when he went to Top Gun as an instructor. He only lasted like 3 months or something. And then, but they realize that he has a certain skill that they always seem to come back and need. So, Yeah, and then I like the thing that Val Kilmer's character, Iceman, kind of was protecting him. Remember, they were so adversarial in the first movie. Of course, they became friends at the end. And that's nice. I like the way they carried that feeling through, that they were still very close, and he was kind of protecting him.
And you would have to have an admiral,
right? And I think that's the key is that even Iceman, although he thought he was dangerous and risky, which he knew he was, he saw something in Maverick that he thought had value. You know what I'm saying? That he's worth protecting. That
he kept saying the Navy
wasn't just reckless. So I like that, and it's really was sad to see Val Kilmer because he he has his throat cancer.
He has throat cancer. He is cancer free right now, but he has to speak with a voice box.
Right. Yeah. He had to have a lot of. It's interesting if you watch Val Kilmer did a lot of. He recorded everything in his.
Yeah, life. He's very open and public about it. You guys can. Yeah. It's a documentary now on HBO or Netflix, one of those, and you can see his whole journey through.
Yeah. So there was a nice thing, and of course, then the character dies during the film, I don't know. Overall, I like this movie. Whether it's an Academy Award nominee, really, I don't.
And we're going to talk about how they got all these shots. For that, these people worked their asses off.
Cinematography was amazing.
The cinematography was mind blowing. But was the story. The story I felt was a little contrived, and it was heavy fan service. Heavy nostalgia fan service.
But that's true. But I think they did a good job with it, though. They did it in a way that it worked.
They weren't beating us over the head with it.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of were, but they did it in a very with a pillow.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
When you get to the beach scene where they are running, here we go, mandatory topless men running around, but what are they playing? Oh, offense, defense, dogfight, football. That's interesting. What the hell? That's chaos. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there was tons of nods to the original film. Obviously, the motorcycle he had there was a GPZ 750 or whatever it was. Same exact motorcycle, same jacket. He pulls the jacket out of the closet. Yeah. So we had that same kind of scene where he's racing.
Oh, by the way, from the first movie too, it is almost impossible to have all of those campaign patches legitimately.
Legitimately, I don't necessarily think, because it could have been his dad's jacket.
Could have been, yes.
So that's the way I always looked at it, that it was his dad's jacket. Maybe he added to it. So the one thing that drives me nuts is the scene where he and Jennifer Connelly are on the motorcycle. And they're in California, no helmet. I know that's a motorcyclist thing. Drove me crazy.
There was no helmet law in California. The second movie, there is now a helmet law.
There's a helmet law.
They absolutely should have been wearing helmets.
Should have been wearing helmets. But even from it, just drives me crazy, because it's I know it doesn't look good without the hair flowing and sunglasses on, which would just fly off at speed. Anyway, ask me how I know. And
yeah, but your hair won't fly off.
No, not mine. I don't have mine aerodynamic.
Yeah, exactly. That's the real reason you shave your head.
Exactly. So anyway, so I think they did a pretty good job with it. And then it's funny because when Goose's son there, Rooster, when you see him, exactly who he's supposed to be. They did an excellent job of making him look like Goose.
Miles Teller, he did a fantastic job. Fun bonus information. That was Miles playing the piano. He plays piano and a number of other instruments. So that was him banging it out, for goodness gracious, great balls.
Yeah, there's a music video of that.
Yeah, and all the extras were actual naval guys from wherever they were in San Diego, or across.
Just like in the first one.
Just like in the first one. Yep. So fun times at the old.
So what didn't you like about the opening scene with the Mach 10? Somebody,
Mary Beth is the one that has
that's the science fiction in this thing. You don't survive.
Well, okay, but
you not eject at Mach 10.
Well, you don't know if
there's a pod around you.
A pod?
The whole
they did not make that clear.
The whole cockpit.
No, they didn't. You notice? No, that's the part that you don't have to, because they didn't show. They didn't show the ejection, and they didn't show him landing.
Right.
Yeah,
they just showed him walking into the diner, which I thought was hysterical.
Which was a really great scene.
What planet is this?
Earth.
That was pretty good. I thought they did pretty good. But he was in a pressure suit.
Yes,
So
he was in
could
the pressure
definitely
suit.
survive in that, and you
Yeah.
know,
But you're broken every. I mean, I guess you have a parachute,
Okay,
but still,
but
I mean,
like I said,
he's
the
at edge of space.
entire cockpit comes out of there on the ejection for a reason. So the pilot isn't subjected to
Hi, Dr.
not
Alex.
1,000-mile-an-hour wind, and then the pod has a parachute on it. It comes down, and then you pop the door open and get out. The FB-111 had the same thing.
All of that, I guess, all that worked correctly because Maverick walked into a diner. But
Right.
I saw that. I'm like, there's no way he ejected at Mach 10. You just don't. You don't
You
eject.
can't.
I mean, this
well,
is.
you don't know.
You would burst into flames.
Well, I mean,
It's
like
you
8,000
hit
miles
that-
an hour.
with Kent saying, I mean, I'm not that
Because you're in a
there's
vehicle
a lot of.
with 8,000 miles an hour.
I think we've established that there's just a
Your
certain
pod has
amount of suspension of disbelief in this film.
But I'm saying with the
Well-
proper equipment, like an FB-111, that's survivable.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what I don't know if maybe Dr. Alexander. See,
Yeah,
it
Dr.
says
yeah,
advanced
same.
escape. Yeah, it's the SR-71 exactly, Doc. What I was
Yeah,
going to
that's
bring
the
up
Blackbird.
is the Blackbird is still, probably classified as the fastest aircraft that took off and landed on its own. And I know they had a system to get those pilots out of that, and they were in full pressure suits.
Yep.
Yes.
Those.
Yes.
Because of the altitude they were at. And that was, speaking of my brother-in-law, that was his first Air Force job, was refueling those with a KC-135 over the Pacific when we were
Dom
still.
Falcone did it too.
Yeah, Bill has a great. Well, Bill, we have to imagine something went wrong, but the plane couldn't handle Mach 10, but the ejection pod could. We have to imagine something actually goes wrong with the plane.
Well, and if it was breaking apart, it would slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doc says you can eject from high Mach with a crew escape capsule, but it's designed Mach 5 to 8. Yeah, I mean, through B-58. Yeah,
the Hustler had one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
So it's we'll just say it's in the realm of possibility that they designed.
Plausible.
It doesn't deserve all the hate in its.
That wasn't. Yeah, it doesn't deserve. That was like the least of the thing.
There's so many more things to hate.
Yeah, it was like so. I do like the theory that the whole thing that with the other admiral there. Why can I never remember the actor's name? He's been in a million stuff there. The admiral that was coming to stop him.
Yeah. Ed Harris.
Yeah, Ed Harris is Carol, and he was heading up a drone program. Right. Basically, and really, I think that's a great kind of underlying thread that eventually you will be replaced. That we won't need.
Yeah, which is happening now.
These are all going to be automated, and that you're eventually not going to have any pilots.
Well, yeah, that movie with oh God, what was the Stealth? Was it called? The one with the Extreme Deep Invader, Eddie. They were stealth Navy guys, and then they had the robot plane, and the robot plane ends up shooting down all the good guys. You guys don't remember that one?
I think I vaguely remember the movie. I remember. I don't know if I even saw it. If I did, I don't remember.
You should see it. It's the same thing. Our robot's going to replace pilots because they can do more things and better.
Yeah, eventually, and it's not even a robot. You have a human pilot. It's just he's on the ground.
But they're autonomous for a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you take off from point A. You say, okay, fly to point B. The thing flies itself to point B. Then the pilot picks up and starts flying it again.
Right. But the point is that eventually, somewhere down the road, they won't need to put people in harm's way,
right?
To do this.
Plus, they can pull way more.
Yeah, I mean, we've already got jets that can hang 25 miles out and shoot from there.
Right.
So we're already moving in that, and we use drones a lot now too. So
right.
The Blackbird. Someone is talking to me and saying the Blackbird actually only goes Mach 3. So somebody
officially, but that came out of the Skunk Works in the 50s.
I was going to say it's Skunk Works, and I couldn't help
it was the top speed was classified for many. I don't know if it's ever been revealed, even though it's been decommissioned.
Yeah.
That plane, they never ever revealed exactly how fast. My brother-in-law, again, having known he was, kind of in the order of Mach 5 or higher. You got to remember, it flies so high, there's almost no atmosphere.
If the crew escape capsule is designed for Mach 5, you know the plane is going Mach.
Yeah, and the SR is an interesting. If you want to just talk about that for a second, it's a titanium fuselage that is built so loose because when it's cold, it leaks fuel all over the place.
Yep.
As it flies, it heats up and everything tightens up and seals, which is why they had to be refueled shortly after takeoff, because once they got up to speed and heated up,
they were just
draining fuel. They would go over Russia, take their pictures, come back, and then the KCs would meet them halfway across or somewhere over the Pacific, refuel them again so they could get back to California.
Yeah, or Kadena and Okinawa.
Let's put it this way: they would have on the sides of their aircraft, the pilots had where fighter pilots would have little silhouettes of other aircraft they shot down. The SRs had missiles painted on how many times they outrun the SAMs because they were faster than the missiles. That's how. And this plane was built in the 50s. I mean, it was just.
And they had to basically embezzle the titanium from the Soviet Union because the Soviet Union wouldn't sell it to us. So the CIA formed a shell company in another country.
Yeah, it's a really good story if you want to read about it now that it's pretty much all declassified. Anyway,
back to
we digress. Welcome to Sci-Fi Distilled.
Yeah. Okay, so
moving past the opening action, if you will.
There's no reason at all that mission could not have been accomplished by F-35s.
Or drones.
Or drones.
Well, that's the thing I didn't get. Why didn't they just slam a couple of cruise missiles right down?
Why didn't they just keep shooting Tomahawks in? And if they're shooting Tomahawks in to take out the runway, why didn't they shoot the Tomahawks in to take out all those turret guns?
Rockets,
yeah. There's a lot of reasons, but because they had to run a canyon. What movie have we seen?
Where a
fighter plane things flying through a canyon has had to hit a very small exhaust port? And exactly
the Womp Rats. Womp Rats.
Something reminds me that maybe it could.
I mean, there's no way they did that without knowing what they were doing.
They had to know what they were doing.
They had to know. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing where they had to go and then up, then they had to do that ridiculous climb, like 6G climb or something it was, to get out of the canyon without hitting the mountain.
Yeah, but the inversion where they go over the top of the mountain and then go down the other side, that's real. That's how you would do that.
Yeah, because you know that.
Instead of pulling negative G's, you're pulling positive G's.
So you don't red out.
Yeah, you don't pass out that way.
You must go to Dagobah. And then after Tom crashes and he's laying there in the snow, he didn't see a vision telling him to go to Dagobah.
Yeah.
Instead, he saw a Hind helicopter coming to annihilate him. Which is
good to know. That's where it really gets after they actually pull the mission. They get to so basically spoilers here. You know, they get Tom Cruise, Maverick, to just train originally to the pilots that are going to do this.
This is contrived. Then
and then of course John Hamm, who plays Admiral
his cyclone. It's also a cyclone.
Yeah, it's called Cyclone Simpson. He clearly doesn't like Maverick. But he eventually comes to the conclusion that he's really the only person that can pull this off.
Because he pulls it off. Because he does that run. He just goes and takes a jet and does the run.
Right, again, he keeps doing this. He keeps stealing planes.
And you can just walk up and get in one and fly.
Yeah, he keeps stealing planes. That's like the subplot of the movie.
John Hamm doing some of his best forehead and eyebrow acting in this movie. Like, he was like, it was all right.
I really like him as an actor, and I wish he would get more parts. After he did Mad Men, he really kind of didn't get a lot.
That's true.
But I like a lot. I like his acting. It's so.
The other Star Wars thing was that the targeting. He can't use his targeting. Like he turns his targeting. The eye in the sky goes off, and then Luke's thing goes off.
Yep.
It's just too many coincidences.
In Maverick's defense, if the plane was prepped, there are no keys. Any pilot can hop in one.
It's true. There are.
You're talking about when they steal the Tom.
That, and also when he takes the Hornet and does the run.
Yeah.
When he
there wouldn't be keys.
There's no keys. That's true.
Now there's a part on the flight line.
You saw with the Tomcat. I'm glad they had the APU outside for the Tomcat to start.
They had to make that really plausible because the Tomcat was
if they just hopped in the thing and hit the start button, anybody that knows anything about those aircraft would be like, bullshit. You can't just start them.
Whoa. You can cartridge start an F-15. You can cartridge start an F-14. As long as you can, it's basically a shotgun shell. That
but you wouldn't do that sitting if it was in the hangar being actually used.
The premise of the movie is that our nameless enemy had been using this plane, and so it was already it was prepped. Yeah.
But the thing is, the funny thing is, half the systems were ripped out of it.
Yeah.
It was just gutted. It was
well, they were.
As ridiculous as that plot was, we all loved it. That he got.
I loved it. It was stupid, and I loved it.
It was stupid, and we all loved it because he's in the Tomcat again, and he's making jump.
The same country that had to use that F-14 also owns Su-57s.
Yeah. So our bad guy, our nameless, faceless bad guy, has Su-57s. However, the part of the Su-57 was played by a lot of CGI and maybe an F-35 or maybe an F-22 Raptor. I'm not sure which, because there are not a lot of Su-57s around to be.
No, the Russians can't keep any of them flying.
No, yeah, exactly. So, but
it's clearly some kind of Middle Eastern country.
The Sukhoi Su-57 felon, I believe.
The felon, yeah.
We're thinking Iran. We're not really sure
what country it was. It's a gorgeous airplane. They just can't fly.
It's an interesting airplane. It's what I call a flippy dippy. It's a high maneuverability. It's one of these planes that can almost, I'm not gonna say turn on a dime, but it can almost pivot its ass around to come back.
Basically, they're building the planes better than the pilots can.
Yeah, they can fly way
harder. Yeah, Russia watched the first Top Gun and was like, it looks like potato. We need better planes. So they came up.
those were F-20 Tiger Sharks. I think that they used
T-38s.
Well, that's very similar craft.
It's the same plane.
The T-38, I think, is just a trainer.
Yeah, it just doesn't have weapons on it.
Yeah.
So the Russians stole our F-35s, made it into the Sukhoi Su-57.
Closer to the Raptor, the F-22.
Or closer to the F-22 Raptor, whichever one. They all kind of look the same to me.
Which is still a 1980s plane.
The Sukhoi is actually a really interesting plane. It is a deadly enemy. But here's the fun fact: is it's a high maneuverable plane. In real world incidents, how many times have they ever used high maneuverability in a real world incident? 0 times. How many times have we Americans been using what we have, which is like long range fire from 20 miles out and then boom.
Well, that's really the point that's what's becoming, is that you don't need to get in close anymore.
You don't need to be flippy dippy dog fighting. There's no reason for it. This Cobra move.
I agree. I saw this and I'm like, why couldn't they just do this with like cruise missiles and just blow the thing up?
Yeah, drones, cruise missiles. There's no reason.
Nuke them from orbit. It's the only way.
It's the only way to be sure. It's the only way to be sure. But again, we have to just go with it. Don't analyze. Yes. We all know this movie is one big pile of bullshit.
We love it. It's bullshit. We love it.
We love it. Why? That's exciting. That's what I'm trying to say. What is it about these films that
adrenaline?
We know it's ridiculous.
Adrenaline junkie, because you're like, it's like what Ken said. It's not America, fuck yeah. It's just like speed, fuck yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's what it is.
It's like, I want to do flippy dippy Cobra bullshit in my fucking.
It just looks cool. It looks like a video game. It's like my brother plays some of the video games because you want to be able to do that stuff. And
I will say, it is the Soviets have. Sorry, they're not Soviets anymore. The Russians have wonderful looking aircraft. The MiG-29 is prettier than anything the U.S. flies. The Su-27, the MiG-31. All of those are pretty aircraft. The Su-57 is gorgeous. All those curves and they're really pretty aircraft. They just can't fight in the real world worth a shit. And they deserve to be cool. And
be careful, comrade. We might have to,
Oh yeah, sorry, bleep me.
They might be watching.
The way they set up they have wonderful aircraft that can do these things, but the pilots can't. They don't train their pilots to do anything but take ground direction. There's a controller on the ground that says, okay, the enemy aircraft is 5 miles ahead of you, and you should fire your missile now. The pilot is just there to direct the aircraft, push the button when they say to shoot, and then land again. That's the Soviet system is not designed to promote hotshot aerial pilots the way the U.S. is.
Kind of yes and kind of no. The Russians are pure offense. Like they don't train the guys in a lot of defense. They train them in a lot of offense. Doc is saying, yeah, air to air in Desert Storm. Yeah, that was a while back.
That was 30 years ago.
So those would be the F-16s, the F-18 Hornets, maybe, or I don't know, Doc. Which jets were those? I don't think it was the
F-15s.
F-15, F-16.
Yeah, I don't know if the F-18 had been out yet.
The Su-57, and I don't know that it was.
Yeah, the 22 wasn't out at that point.
That was 2 more. Doc, Rico needs 2 more to be an ace.
The thing is, we don't get into that many dogfights to begin with to get that.
I know. It's hard to kill 5.
Well, that was an interesting. It's interesting we bring that up because that was one of the points that they brought Maverick in, that he's one of the only pilots that has had actual real dogfighting.
Yeah, real world combat.
All these other ones had just been in simulators and training. So, that's an interesting point that, because we haven't been involved in any major conflicts in quite a while, there aren't a lot of dogfights going on because we're just not at war with anybody specifically like that. So that
we know, that they're going to tell us about.
Yeah.
I mean,
going down, we've had conflicts, but nothing in the order of where you would have actual dogfights with other aircraft.
Yeah, they shoot them in the face from 20 miles away.
Yeah, and there's nothing.
Lately, we've been a little bit more.
We're very good at balloons lately.
We're excellent at balloons. We're excellent.
F-22 is
or some other unknown object. They don't call them UFOs anymore. They have another name.
2 more balloons. We got
the F-22 is undefeated.
It's undefeated.
An ace at balloons.
And I was giving Bruce crap last week. Apparently, the Canadians didn't even bother to get out of bed to get the one that was over Canada.
They called us.
They had to call the Americans to shoot it down. They didn't want to bother with it.
Nice.
Just go shoot it down, eh?
Don't
worry about it. Daddy. I'm having my beer.
We'll let you in over our airspace.
The hockey game's on, man.
It's hockey night in Canada. We can't get bothered to scramble.
We have to watch it. So if you could just come on over. So let's talk about how they filmed this thing, because I think the filming was almost cooler than the movie itself. I just want to make really, really clear. I don't want Sci-Fi Distilled to get any wrong information out there, because I saw wrong information in many, many places. The actors, and I can't stress this enough, only one time, and I will tell you which one. The actors did not fly the planes, and I can't believe I have to say that. But that information is out there that they did. They did not, except for Tom Cruise flying his own P-52 Mustang at the very end of the movie. Every other shot where they're in an actual plane, they're the rear passenger, and there's a qualified naval aviator piloting the plane, and they're in the back, and they have cameras. I think
that's how they did the original film.
The original film was in a mock-up with some rear projection. I have seen the behind-the-scenes footage.
They did one.
It was probably on a gimbal, right?
They did one cat shot with Tom Cruise in the back seat.
They did, yeah. They might have did a couple. They might have put Tom in the back seat for a couple shots.
The rest of it was all.
And the rest of it was all make-believe. This time they were like, all right, we want the actors up there. But here's the thing. The studio released a statement saying that the actors were in the cockpit. And somehow people in their minds were like, oh, my God, the actors all flew the planes. No, I cannot stress.
I don't know how anybody really could believe that they could. I mean, it takes years of training, specialized training to fly that kind of aircraft.
No kidding. I saw the Times of foreign country, English-speaking foreign country, Times of fill-in-the-blank country, reporting that the actors flew the planes themselves. No, guys, no. The actors were passengers. What they did was still tremendous. They were still under G, like they were under 5, 6, 7, 8 Gs. They had all these cameras, and they had to do it themselves. Like, you're the actor, and now you have to worry about the cameras on. Where's my eye line as I take a turn at Mach 3? As I do this, where's my eye line? What am I doing? What are my lines? And you have to coordinate with your pilot to say, hey, man, the sun's over there and I need to be lit from here because I was lit from here last time. So there's continuity. So they did all these east-west runs. These pilots did all these east-west runs so the lighting would be the same because there's no gaffing in a plane. It took them 15 months to figure out where to put these cameras and how to put these cameras because there's already enough crap in the plane, right?
Yeah, they're hard to sit in.
It was unreal what they did. And they had to go through like 3 months of training to just be able to get in the jet. Well, like, you don't just jump in a jet and go at Mach whatever.
in the 80s, they didn't have, that's probably a good reason, though. They didn't have, the cameras were big.
Bill Sotak.
He's got a little laugh emoji.
I know.
He's joking.
They
flew in the plane. They did not fly the plane.
I think the studio released a statement that said the actors were in the cockpits, and somehow that got completely misinterpreted.
Well, of course,
you guys start looking.
All that plane is a cockpit. There's no other place to sit.
There's no other place to be, really.
Yeah. Hang a pod under the wing with a person in it.
Right. He's in the belly turret.
Yes. And they specifically had to use.
Doc's absolutely right. The Navy would not let them touch those F-18 Super Hornets. Yeah, and Tom is qualified. He probably could have, but they were like, "No, sir, you cannot."
He is a qualified pilot, but that's still.
He is a very qualified pilot. So yeah, the only plane flown by an actor in this movie is Tom Cruise in his own P-52 Mustang. That at the very, very end. 51?
Yes,
51. Yeah,
51
Mustang.
P-51D.
Those planes, let me tell you, that's not an easy plane to fly either.
No,
because when I used to be born to aviation down in Florida, we used to have down at Sun and Fun, which is a EAA event, big, a lot of warbirds come in for that. And there's always been a lot of stories of guys that with a lot of money and not a lot of sense would buy one of those, an antique P-50 and go fly it for the first time with no real training. But they're pilots. But the torque that engine puts out when it lifts off, they would go whoop and flip right over. It would literally flip the plane over.
It's a very
not prepared to
touchy
counter
plane.
It right on takeoff. And it happened more times. And the shame of it is not only the pilot get killed, but destroyed the plane.
Yeah.
Which they're not making anymore.
They want to fly so hard that it's hard to get them to land.
Yeah, they have a lot of that engine is so powerful.
It wants to go, and you got
to rotate
right down.
Yeah. Martin says
so
it's
anyway, the fact that he can fly that plane is
my hat's off to him. Yeah, he's. I'm sure he's a very qualified pilot, but he did not get.
Well, no, I mean, there's a big difference between a P-51 and an F-18.
However, let's take our hats off to all the cast who were in the planes because they had to go through dunk tank, which I'm not sure why they did dunk tank because. Why did they do dunk tank? Because for when they were in a helicopter, like over water or something, because all the flight scenes were over the desert.
Well,
so why were they doing dunk tank?
Cruise specifically did a cat shot off a carrier, so that one you definitely.
They all did. I saw Miles tell this footage of Miles, like this footage of all of them doing dunk tank. They did dunk tank. They went up first in Cessnas, sure, and then they graduated to whatever's next, and then finally graduated, and finally they put them in the back of these jets. And they
made them shit themselves. Yes.
And they made them pass out.
I wonder how many of the jets they had to clean out afterwards.
It was only Tom and the girl, Monica. I can't think of her last name. Those are the only two who did not throw up.
I can believe it.
I believe it. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure those pilots were like, okay.
Some poor seaman.
Yeah. Doc is reminding me you have to have water for the catapult.
Okay, so if your plane doesn't fly when you get shot down the carrier,
it goes
right into the ocean.
But you got to hope that canopy comes off. But even then, because the dunk tank, you got to navigate a door or a window. There's no door or window to have to worry about.
That's assuming the canopy comes off. If jettisons the canopy and then you go into the water, the plane is going to be upside down at some point. And you got to climb out from under it.
I'm thinking dunk tanks are for helicopter use. They must have took helicopters out to the Roosevelt because they were doing that off the Roosevelt.
It's
anyway.
It's definitely a survival.
The fact is they had to do it.
The fact is they had to do it, and my hats are off to them. They worked really, really hard. And having to be your own cinematographer, like turn the camera on yourself, say your lines, and you're like, it's just bizarre. Like I can't imagine.
And the monkey flips the switch.
And the monkey flips
actually
the switch.
Pretty.
They had to invent new cameras, so they had cameras in the jets, but then they had these.
No quoting that movie.
I have a link. If you guys like all this technical crap, I have a link for you. Let me put it in the thing. It says every jet and every camera used. These cameras were specially designed to withstand Mach whatever and all the G-forces. And then because there's no room in the cockpit for the passenger in the jet, they had to create a new camera where the lens is detached from the body of the camera by a long cord, and they could stash the body somewhere else, and it was just lenses mounted. Let me pull up a really fascinating link. Where did I put it? If you guys like all the technical kind of details on like what plane did they use to film this, what was the chase plane, what camera did they use on the chase plane, here you, that is not the right place. Here you guys go. The other thing in researching this, and Kent and I were kind of laughing, I found there are a lot of former fighter pilots on YouTube who are very happy to comment on this, and some of their comments and some of their like breakdowns of this movie was hilarious. Guys, go on YouTube and search Mover Ruins, Mover. That's his call sign. Mover, I don't know his real name. Mover Ruins Movies, and he has a 9-part breakdown of this movie.
He's an F-16, F-18 pilot. He transitioned from Air Force to Navy. He was also a commercial airline pilot after. But yeah, he's been there and done that. Air-to-air combat.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that.
But he loves the movie.
That this film is not based in any form of reality.
No. But Mover loves the movie. He'll say something like, "Man, this scene was so cool, and here's why it's wrong."
And you know what? You could take almost any profession
absolutely.
And throw it into a movie, and my wife would always. She was in pathology for years, did autopsies, and she's like, she used to drive her crazy, like the X-Files. Every time the Scully was doing an autopsy, it was in the pitch black dark. It's like why no, they're all lit up like the sun, so you can see what you're doing. Stuff like that. So so she'd always weigh the intestine. She's like, there's no reason to do that.
Mover. So at the very end, Hangman saves the day, right? And Mover's observation on Hangman. Yes. There comes Hangman, and he bangs, and you see the bottom of his plane, and he is loaded for bear. He has every ordnance that they could possibly put on the bottom of that plane. And Mover's like, what is he the backup for the entire war? And then they looking at all his ordnance, and they're like, he's overgross. Like, he didn't get off the deck. Like,
you can't do a cat shot with that much stuff on your plane.
And they're counting, and they're like, wait, he's got 2 of this and 2 of that. And it's so funny.
But it looked good.
Find it. Mover Ruins Movies.
Yep,
Go find it.
But it looks good. That's the point.
But it looks awesome. He's loaded for bear.
I didn't want this based in reality.
Hangman's loaded for bear, but they sent the actual strike team in with like 2 bombs and some guns. Like, that's it.
Well, because they couldn't. They had
to be fast and light, I guess.
And that actually is an interesting point. Mover talks about it a little bit. They were discarding those aircraft after that mission, even if they flew it perfectly and everybody came back and landed safely and all of that.
Yeah, they knew. Well, they said they implied, that
once you over G the plane like that, it is not rated to fly anymore
or whatever.
The wing roots will crack and things like that. So they knew they were sacrificing those planes to get this done, which is another reason they should have just shot as many cruise missiles as it took, because that's a $20 million, $30 million aircraft.
Exactly.
And you just wasted 5 of them.
Exactly.
Because you got to figure they were wasting them in the training too. Every time they did a training mission, and they pull those,
right, they would have damaged the.
They have then unrated those aircraft. So it's that was an expensive figure. 15 training flights, 4 planes.
Again, not a realistic film. But again, I didn't want this to be realistic.
Nah,
it's not what I watched the film for.
You wanted it to be who? You wanted
it to be over the top. You knew it was going to be over the top.
Yeah.
And nobody,
I don't know what
nobody goes ballistic on an admiral's daughter.
We've used this term before, but it is a good popcorn movie. You just watch this movie. 2 hours goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's pretty much moves along. There's really not a lot of slow parts unless you get to the the love scene stuff.
The love scenes were the only slow parts. Even seeing Val Kilmer was really, really nice. Like I even
that was great. I loved that they brought him in. I mean, I thought that was a really great scene.
Talk about suspension of disbelief, though. Nobody goes ballistic on an admiral's daughter and continues in the military. I don't care how good a pilot you are. That kind of thing. Yeah. They will find a way to Article 14 you.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Speaking of expensive, Bill is asking how much the cruise. I have no idea, Bill, but the Navy charged
cruise missiles less than an F-18.
The Navy charged the production something in the neighborhood of $11,000 an hour for each ride.
I believe that. Those are very expensive to operate.
Their expenses like $30,000 or $40,000. So that was a bargain. Like $11,000 was a bargain.
Yep. That's it's one of those things. For every guy who's actually pulling a trigger and fighting, there are 15 or 20 people behind him.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of support crew for those planes.
Yeah,
have to be.
And some of the scenes were just
Martin, I've never seen that. If anybody's asking if we ever seen 633 Squadron.
No,
I've not even heard of that, Martin. Maybe put a link there for it. Maybe.
Some of the scenes were just sheer dumb luck. The scene where he flies over Ed Harris in the Blackbird, it wasn't the Blackbird. It was a Blue Angels pilot in one of the Super Hornets, actually.
Yep.
Flying over, and they did not know. You see the roof pop up on the little guard shack? They didn't know that was going to happen. Completely unplanned. They were freaked out. That if you see the wide shot, they decimated the set. There was more stuff around, and they just destroyed it. Yep. So the Hornet does this flyby, and then they CGI'd the Blackbird. Or no, I'm sorry, it's not a Blackbird. It was a Dark Star, whatever.
Yeah.
The Skunk Works plane.
The Aurora.
And whatever. And so that was a really cool shot. Props to Ed Harris for standing there and taking that, because that would look crazy. And then the other funny shot was there was one, the plane went up and it made that kick-ass curl, like, you know.
Yeah, they did that in the first movie.
And then in the first one, there were a couple shots, a couple lines lifted right from the first one, and I think a couple shots, including the switch to guns. That's not real. Whatever is on the stick, it ain't that. However they go from missiles to guns, it's not on the stick. So
it's just a different trigger.
One
button is missiles and one button is guns.
But it's more cinematically dramatic to have him
switch it over.
Switch it over from. I'm switching
again. We look at this. We look at this film as like a video game. Okay, it's that kind of thing. Yeah. It's like it's a video game that we don't get to actually play. We just have to watch it.
But this is one of the ones where there's almost a joy in, like, not nitpicking, but like learning, like, oh, this is how it really works, because this is such a cool subject matter. You know what I mean?
I love their expression when the felon does its thing, and they go, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah. At one point, I was thinking, you know, I wonder if at the end of this film Maverick dies, like he sacrificed or something like that, and they're gonna. And then I quickly walked that back and I'm going, no, it's not that kind of film. There's no way they're gonna end this on a bad note. Nobody dies.
Yeah. Even Goose dying in the first one was beyond the pale.
Yeah.
Right. So, it was just, so I was like, well, what if they're going to, you know, just to kind of, as his final mission. And I'm like, nah, they're not going to do that, because that's not that kind of.
Oh, Bill knows how much the Tomahawks are. $2 million.
So it's still cheaper than
they are expensive. $20 million FA-18.
They're still expensive, but you know, we just print more money. It's all right.
Here's a fan theory. Cruise died when the Mach 10 plane came apart. And this is all a fantasy.
No.
He's a ghost the whole time.
He's a ghost the whole time.
He's a ghost the whole time.
He's like Obi-Wan in the back of the X-Wing going, use the Force, Rooster.
They're both sitting there. He's like, talk to me, Goose, and Rooster's like, talk to me. Like, what the hell? Goose is looking like, you're both idiots. I don't know why. Why didn't you just use the missiles to do this?
Right? Why the hell are you doing this mission anyway?
You could have done this from a distance, you morons.
Nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Yeah, so you know, it's I liked it. I don't know if it's an Academy. I don't know if it's an Academy Award-winning Best Picture. It certainly would get for, you know, the stunts and the flying, cinematography of it.
Cinematography is spectacular.
It certainly warrants something there, whether it's Best Picture or not. Although I never really follow the Academy Awards.
It was made for $170 million. It is rapidly closing in on $1.5 billion. It's sitting at 1.4 or something right now.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the theater. I kind of wish I did. I think this would have been a great IMAX.
Oh, it was great on the big screen. Absolutely.
Yeah, all those little cameras that they have
here. It is on, by the way, those that have not seen it, if you haven't seen it, it is on Paramount Plus. If you have Paramount Plus, you can watch it on Paramount Plus.
Yes, I paid money to watch this one. I paid $5.
Yeah, so that's when I just you know, I still haven't gotten back to the theaters since COVID, and
neither have I, and I have no desire to.
No, I needed to see Ant-Man: Quantumania on the big screen. I went in to watch that one because that's a spectacle picture.
Spectacle.
Yeah. like
Avatar. Probably Avatar is a spectacle, but I have zero.
Yeah, no, I have no interest in that.
I even paid extra to see that one in 3D.
Oh wow,
Avatar.
What was it?
Yeah, Avatar 2. I liked it. It was a worthy successor to the first one. It has a lot of the same moral problems the first one did, but it was fun. It was a family picture. Tugged on the right heartstrings in the right places.
No tail sex this time?
What's that?
No tail sex?
No, actually, wait. I don't remember.
Braid? Was it Braid?
I didn't really care for the first one,
yeah.
so I had no desire.
Well,
I had no desire to see the second one.
It was Dances with Wolves with blue people.
Dances with Wolves with blue people.
The white man comes into the Native Americans.
White man solves racism.
That was the same thing in the first one. That basically we were the aliens invading.
No. That's not the point. White man comes into the Native Americans and does Native American better than the Native Americans do. That's the problem with Dances with Wolves. That's the problem with Avatar. That's the problem with a lot of these kinds of movies and why they draw so much ire. The outsider, the white man, is coming in and he learns the native ways, and then he's a better native than the natives are. That's a horrible, big, huge, ugly mess.
Yeah, I'm not really following what that is. But we don't need to go into that. I don't really understand what you mean by they do it better than.
He comes in and he's the best. He ends up running the natives. He ends up leading them in battle. He ends up being the chief.
Oh, because the guy that was the human. Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah, all right.
The white man comes in,
it's still not a good movie.
Yeah, but visually incredible.
Visually, yeah, but that's today to me, the effects don't. You can't base an entire movie on having good effects anymore. It doesn't carry.
No.
You gotta have a story that goes with it. Everybody has good effects.
Yeah.
In these days, I mean, it's always going to get better and better, but we've seen so many amazing things in the last 30, 40 years, in movies that we're just not impressed with them anymore. We take it for granted.
Of which, they did a red carpet interview with Harrison Ford, and they split screened it. The top half is old Harrison Ford answering the questions on the red carpet.
I saw that, yeah.
And the bottom half is they de-aged him.
The deep fake, they do the deep fake on it.
Yeah, we're rapidly approaching the point where they're not going to use actors anymore.
Yeah, we'll be all
there's some deep fake Tom Cruise out there that you would swear it's Tom Cruise.
Well, you saw, I mean, it was a good thing in Mandalorian, when with the whole Luke Skywalker thing.
Yeah.
And then
took it, deep faked it, and did it look better than what Disney did.
If you're into that kind of stuff, Corridor Crew, go on YouTube. The Corridor Crew will deconstruct all of that for you, and they did that deep fake, and they looked at the Leia one. And
speaking of, I don't know if you mentioned it because I was distracted in the beginning, but Mandalorian next.
Yes, I did mention
next week. Yeah.
Sorry, Paramount. Disney's still kicking your ass all over the place.
Let's see how Picard does.
We'll see how Picard does. I think Picard will wrap good. I do. I'm optimistically hopeful on this one. But
he can be Filoni and McMahon.
I just don't buy into. Yeah, I just don't buy into they throw us a couple of Easter eggs from the old stuff, and we're all like, oh,
and we're all in love again.
There's got to be a good story.
What have you done for me?
Let's see how the actors act. Let's see how the characters act. Like if they act like themselves, like their own selves, and not, then we'll see.
Yeah, there's just we'll go over it. Like I said, once they're done, whatever 10 episodes, I don't even know what it is. We'll.
You remember when we had 22 episodes a season?
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
Long gone are the days. It started in September when school started and ended in June when school ended. And then it was reruns all summer. Let's go back to that.
But you were outside playing anyway, so the reruns.
But you were outside playing, so you didn't care.
Yeah, we talked about that. If you missed it on the first run, your only hope was to see it was in the rerun, and then after you missed the rerun, you got to wait 20 years till it came out on VHS or something.
Syndication.
Yeah, or
occasionally Channel 11 would have it in the afternoons.
Well, all right. Are we on final thoughts, or where are we?
We're getting there. Yeah, it's about five of. So final thoughts. I mean, I loved. I don't know if love is strong as word, but I really liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, love. I loved it.
It was a worthy successor to the first
twice.
I don't throw that word around lightly.
I do. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was very.
It was good. It was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It was a good sequel, if you will, to the
worthy
original. I
successor
thought
to the
they did
first
an
one.
excellent job of pulling in all the Easter eggs and all the little things that they did in the original one, and not, like I said, they didn't smash us with it with a sledgehammer. They hit us with a pillow.
But they did. It's like they made a list. We got to hit this. The only thing they didn't do was negative Ghost Rider. The pattern is full. They didn't do that.
Or a close pass on the tower. Yeah.
It was a close pass on the ship.
Oh, and they didn't get Jim Tolkien to be in there. He should have been there.
Did they? They didn't even mention Tom Skerritt. I know he passed, but
is Tom gone?
I thought he died. Could be wrong.
Michael Ironside, both Viper and Jester weren't even.
I want to say maybe I lose that?
But they would have been long retired.
I thought he died.
I thought he did too, but I don't know that he did.
Anyway, but there was no mention of either of those characters, which would have been nice just to see what happened to them, if or even had a cameo if they are still around. Not necessary though. I don't think it took anything away from the film that they weren't in there.
Right.
No.
There's that would have been.
And Charlie, obviously,
really
they left out.
Well, you can't. Yeah, I mean,
Kelly
it could have been Kelly McGillis.
Wrong.
Wouldn't have fit if you've seen her today.
Well, it's not that. I mean, she could still
Well,
be.
no, I think it's that.
Still have a government job.
I think it's that.
Yeah. Say the relationship.
I don't. Yeah,
I think it would have been.
I don't know if she's acting anymore. Is she?
I think it would have been
she's teaching acting in North Carolina.
I think it would have been a real growth moment for Tom Cruise that she did show up looking like a frumpy housewife and he was still in love with her and they still had a relationship. That would have been mature on his part.
That's not what this audience wants.
But that's not what that audience. That's not what this movie is about.
They want to see Jennifer Connelly, who looked great in this film, by the way.
Yes.
This isn't that kind of film, Ken.
I get it, but it would have been all right.
I don't know. I know that would have been I think that would have been out of character for this film had they done that. Yeah. Completely.
Of all the characters that Tom Cruise plays,
it would have been a really bad moment.
Yeah. But of all the characters that Tom Cruise plays, I think Maverick is closest to him. Like him.
Probably.
He didn't even jump on a couch or talk about Scientology.
Well, we're not going to go into the religion. We know that's another issue that
we just
I don't agree with his particular, but that's not what we're here for. So
right.
So Bill says Tom Skerritt is 89. Okay, I lost that bet. I would have lost that.
Yeah, I don't know why. I thought the same thing.
I don't know why I thought I had a memory of
the other day. I'm like, I think Tom's gone.
I know Michael Ironside is still around.
That's like a huge minute. We both just had a Mandela effect moment.
Yeah, I don't know why. I had somehow I had a memory of somebody announcing.
Me too. Me too. Someone said Tom.
Must have been somebody else.
Gone. Yep.
Speaking of Nuke It from more, he was in the original Alien. No.
Yes.
All right. Well, it's getting near 8:00, so we like the movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend going.
Thumbs up.
Get ready, get watching it, especially if you liked the first one. That's what I tell people. If you liked the original Top Gun, you will like this one.
Yes, absolutely.
Clearly, if you didn't like the original one, then you're not going to like this one. But I have not met anybody. I can't think of anybody that said, "Oh, I didn't like Top Gun."
Well,
everyone
right.
loved Top Gun.
Everybody loved Top Gun. Everybody loved Iron Eagle. Iron Eagle was a similar type movie that came out about the same time. America, fuck yeah. That was
that was a little bit more campy.
Yeah,
a lot more campy.
Red Dawn, maybe Red Dawn.
The original Red Dawn. That was an American.
Red Dawn was before this, I think. Before Top Gun.
Red Dawn's older.
Barely.
Red Dawn was a good movie. That was Patrick Swayze.
That was Patrick Swayze, yeah.
Yep.
That was a good movie. I like that. That was really we all like that.
There was a whole string of America fuck yeah movies about that time.
Yeah, we were.
I think Iron Eagle. Iron Eagle, mind you, got what 3 sequels? Like there was like 3 of them.
Oh yeah, but nobody talks about those.
I know. I'm just saying this movie took almost 40 years to have a sequel, and that one was a bigger hit.
Yeah, 30.
Good soundtrack on the original Iron Eagle. Though.
Hell, they even did Firebirds. That was helicopters with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're gonna leave the danger zone.
Phrasing. Are we still doing phrasing?
Okay, upcoming.
So,
Roy, this Friday, Roy will be talking to friend of the Star Trek set tour, Bonnie Moss. Bonnie was a friend of Leonard Nimoy and has a massive collection of Leonard Nimoy stuff and can talk all about Leonard Nimoy. And tomorrow on WUSB Stony Brook from 3 to 5 p.m., Rizzo and I will be joining Captain Phil. We're going to talk to Dr. Margaret Whitekamp, who helped restore the Enterprise in the Smithsonian, but she's also got a new book out talking about all kinds of spaceships, both I believe both real and fictional. Maybe it's just fictional. I'm not sure. We'll find out.
I think it's
both.
If it is in the air and in space, it's in her book. So that'll be an interesting.
Ask her if you could survive a Mach 10 ejection.
We can ask her if you can survive a Mach 10.
And just so you know, you guys, you can listen to. You don't need to be in Long Island to listen to. WSB. It is online.
Just Google WUSB.
And it's really easy. If you have one of those fancy little Amazon devices, you just tell it to play WUSB radio.
Yep. Say her name. Blah blah blah. Play WUSB, and she will.
And we'll be there. I don't know if we're on the first or the second hour or where we are.
I don't know either, to be honest with you. I do not know exactly what time, but we'll be there.
I set an alarm because I was technically working. Shh.
Technically working on the radio.
I'll be working on the radio.
3 to 5.
I'm salaried.
Radio Cosmos. No, that's a different movie.
Anyway. All right. So, and then next week, we're going to start in March. We're going to start Robot Month, I guess.
We've already done a couple robots. We already did Bicentennial.
We're going to do movies about robots or that somehow involve a robot in it some way. And we're going to try to keep it to robots and not androids. But we'll see. I don't know what we're going to do.
We already did Iron Giant, so our choices are narrowing down. But
we've already done Iron Giant, so there's plenty of other movies.
Does Terminator?
Plenty of other robot movies.
Terminator, we did. We've done Terminator.
Terminator 2.
We didn't do Terminator 2.
That's the same robot as Terminator.
That has 2 robots in it, though.
Sue's saying Short Circuit. I had actually mentioned that, Sue. That was from the 80s.
Short Circuit, number 5.
Number 5 is alive. Yeah. But that was
we could do Wall-E.
Wall-E, yeah. So if you guys, you can post on the page or post here, whatever. What do you think you might want us to do?
Which little robot?
Saturn 5. You remember that one?
Ooh, that was a bad movie.
That was a very bad movie.
It had Farrah Fawcett in it, though.
Yes, which was a redeeming point.
And it had what's his name?
Klaus.
No. More famous than that. Who was her love interest in that film? The older guy that.
Yeah, that was Klaus Kinski.
No. You're gonna make me look it up now.
I'm looking.
Was it Kirk Douglas?
Kirk Douglas. Thank you.
That's Chris LaRoche with the save. Way to go, Shadow.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, I knew it. I could picture him. He was in 20,000 Leagues and all that. Yeah, it was Kirk Douglas. So, yeah, not a good film.
No.
Very low budget, too.
Well, the robot looked kind of cool.
Did it?
For values of cool. Shush.
Anyway, we'll come up with something. We'll take suggestions. I don't know what we're going to do next week for sure. And then I think we're going to try to get. I think Dave Lafredo wanted. He had a whole thing on
robot. Do kind of a robot
roundup. We'll probably close with that one.
That's a great idea.
So
that's a great idea.
So it should be fun. That's out of our. That's an old. That's a 70s movie. I do remember Demons. Yeah. So maybe we could do that. That's a good movie, though.
I like that.
There's plenty.
So movies specifically about robots?
Well, that involve it somehow.
Robots in them.
They could either way.
Black Hole, for example, had some really cool robots in it.
Remember that thing? Maximilian.
And Vincent.
That daunting music that.
Yes. Repeated.
You want to just kill the orchestra by the time that film's over.
And that was a Disney film too.
Just I remember being playing that song over and over, the same notes. As a kid, I liked it. I haven't seen it probably in decades.
That might be one to do that.
So maybe I'll watch it again. Maybe I don't know. Is that something you guys want to do with Black Hole? You think that's?
I'll be on board for that one if you guys want.
No, I just mean I'm asking the group if they.
No, I know that.
But that's what they would want to do. So, I mean, you could do even stuff like Red Planet because that had
that had a good robot in it.
That had a good robot in it. So
the episode of $6 Million Man with the Venus probe.
I think that's just a marital aid now. They call that.
Yes,
So
the Venus probe. Yes,
if you go on Adam and Eve, there's this thing called the Venus.
It's hot and steamy.
Sorry, I got to put the damn adult warning on.
And you just put now we need the adult warning on this. Okay.
It's just phrasing.
All right.
All right. It's after 8:00. We're gonna end there before it goes farther down. We're gonna crash and burn. All right, folks. Well, we'll see you next week.
Sorry,
I'll put up shortly in the next couple days what we're gonna actually do for a film, but it will be something about robots.
Something about robots.
And in the meantime, if you're in the Northeast, stay safe because we're supposed to get a good snow.
I'm under warning right now. But
and I think the Midwest was getting hit too. So anybody that might be out that way, of course, Colorado and Utah and or rather,
but they want to ski. See,
they
want
like 3 feet.
Yeah, they're crazy. So
they're like, bring it on, let's ski.
Okay, all right. Well, they can have it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Good night, folks.
Everybody.
Thanks for joining us. Live long and prosper. We'll see you next week.